Hello. Hello, welcome. Welcome. This is the global community for adults who are healing CPTSD, healing complex PTSD, complex trauma, also known as developmental trauma disorder, meaning that the repeated relational trauma you experienced likely began in childhood with your first family, your family of origin. My name's Athena. It's an honor to be here with you. We've been showing up here together for over 9 years now on Mondays. And actually, I think 9 years ago we got together on Wednesdays and then we switched it out to Monday. I think that's what we did. Welcome. Again, my name's Athena. This channel is sponsored by the Foundation for Post-Traumatic Healing and Complex Trauma Research, also known as CPTSDfoundation.org. It's such an honor to be here with you. So we get together here and we touch base with one another once a week, and we share what works and what hasn't been working for us in our healing journey from repeated relational trauma. And I'm so glad you've chosen to be here today. What we've been doing over the last few years is we've been doing a meditation, an affirmation, and a healing strategy. Last year we did our meditation, affirmation, and healing strategies with Melody Beatty. We went through a book together titled Language of Letting Go. And this year, you'll see the artwork up on the screen. We've been doing a meditation with Morgan Harper Nichols. We've been doing a healing strategy, Dr. Ariel Schwartz, and an affirmation from Lisa A. Romano's book titled Loving the Self Affirmations. And it's been really, really helpful and very healing and very cathartic, and it's given us a lot of tools, a lot of really helpful hints and ways that we can approach our healing journey from repeated relational trauma in a way that feels sustainable and engages all of our senses and brings us back to the present moment so that we're not ruminating on the past and anxious and concerned about the future, trying to look to the future to see what's going to happen so we can keep ourselves safe. That's the hypervigilance that we experience as we've gone through repeated relational trauma. So again, it's such an honor to be here with you today. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much, everyone who's here for the live discussion. I see you. Hello, John Harvey. Hello, Craig. Hello, Nocturne. Hello. Hello, Ninja Taco. Hello to everyone that's in the chat box. And hello to the rest of the family, the friendly family of choice. Hello to those who perhaps are here but are not in the chat box. I honor you. I honor your process. So as we've been doing for the past several weeks, we're going to start off with some deep breathing. You're more than welcome to participate in some breath work with me so that we can regulate our nervous system. And if you start to sense that while we're doing our breathing, you can participate with me in the breathing or not. It's completely up to you. It's whatever works for you, right? This time is for you and you alone. But if you start to notice yourself feeling like you need to yawn, right? If you start to have the urge to yawn while we're doing our breath work, that just means that we are activating our parasympathetic nervous system, also known as rest and digest. And what that means is that we're here and we are co-regulating together. We're regulating our nervous systems together. That's what co-regulation means. And when we co-regulate first, it's sort of like when a baby is born, the baby attaches to the primary object, the mother, and their bodies regulate with one another. They co-regulate. And many survivors of repeated relational trauma who are living with CPTSD, who are healing complex trauma, many of them, again, their trauma began with their first family, their family of origin. And for many of us, our trauma began in infancy. Trauma that begins in infancy is typically referred to as attachment trauma. Between the ages of 0 and 8, it's when we have a difficult time attaching to our primary object, our caregiver, usually a mother or father, sometimes a grandparent or sibling. And if we don't attach in a secure way, we experience what's called an attachment disorder or attachment trauma. And what that does is it causes us to sometimes struggle with regulating our nervous system. We feel emotionally dysregulated. And so when we do our breath work together, before we do our meditation and our affirmation and our healing strategy, then what we're doing is we're doing our best to create new neural pathways in the brain, new grooves, new roads. And that way, what we do, we're co-regulating. And we're creating new neural pathways. It's like muscle memory. We're helping our body remember. We're teaching our body how to regulate the nervous system while we're here together. And that way we can self-regulate when we're not here with one another. So first we're co-regulating, and then we self-regulate. So a baby learns how to regulate with the mother. And then the baby knows how to self-regulate. So that's what we're doing here today. We're co-regulating. And we're creating new neural pathways so that we may self-regulate. So it is so good to be here with you all. Thank you so much for being here. Hello to Jeffrey Sherman. Hello, Jennifer. Again, thank you so much, John Harvey and Ninja Taco. I appreciate you so much. I hope you have a wonderful night, Nocturne. I'm so glad you stopped by. So we're going to take a few breaths. We're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. And we're going to do that 4 times. If this feels safe and helpful and supportive for you, please feel free to join me. And then we'll do our meditation, our affirmation, and our healing strategy. Again. Last time. All right. How do you feel? Thank you so much for doing some breath work with me. If it feels helpful and supportive for you to let me know how you're doing in the chat box, please feel free to do so. We'll go ahead and we'll start with our meditation with Morgan Harper Nichols. Thank you so much for the thumbs up, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate you all so much. So Morgan's work, her artwork is what you see up on the screen. She's one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite poets and writers. And this meditation is from a free resource. She sends out one free email a week on Sundays, and I've never received anything else from her, just one free email a week. And this is from her meditation, her free email that she sent out this past week, and her artwork on the screen is beautiful, and it reads, "Pursue peace by viewing peace as a practice that invites you to breathe free." Right here, even while you wait for things to fall into place. Morgan says, "For the one facing fear, here's to being a little less afraid than we were yesterday. Here's to coming forth into the sunlight, one breath at a time. Learning to try new things without knowing what the outcome will be. Here's to reminding ourselves, 1 hour at a time. It's all a practice." We can practice courage. We can practice being a little less afraid. We can practice peace and breathe through it. In this life, we will take big leaps, but there will also be ordinary days where what matters is that we just took the time to breathe. We took the time to create something without worrying about what the outcome will be. I hope today is one of those days when we can practice being a little less afraid. I hope we can remember that we do not have to be completely fearless before we do something courageous, even if it's small, even if no one else notices it. It matters. And whether or not we are taking a big leap. May we breathe deep and remember courage as a practice matters. I love that. It's good to see you, Jennifer. It's good to see you, Craig. Hello, Whitney. It's good to see you. Jennifer says, hey, everyone. I hope everyone is coping one day at a time the best you can. How are you all feeling? Let's do our healing strategy with Dr. Ariel Schwartz. Here we go. So for the last 4 weeks, we have been doing a series with Dr. Ariel Schwartz on the healing strategy of mindfulness of the here and now. And today is the last day of this series on mindfulness of the here and now. And then next week, we start a different healing strategy titled Self-Awareness of Avoidance Behaviors. This will be really thought-provoking for us. And I'm excited to go through that with you. And then the one after that, the following week, is developing healthy distractions. So for tonight, I'm going to read to you how Dr. Ariel Schwartz is inviting us to practice mindfulness of the here and now by utilizing all 5 of our senses. Because what we'll do is we will review the last few weeks, and then we'll end tonight with all of the senses together in the healing strategy of mindfulness of the here and now. Okay? So here we go. Ariel says, this healing strategy involves mentally acknowledging that you are safe. However, it's important to ensure that you are indeed safe. If you are currently living in a threatening environment, you need to realize that the feeling of fear is essential for your self-protection. And the first thing to focus on is getting safe. But if you are suffering from anxiety related to the past, and you are currently in a safe situation, you can use this strategy to engage your senses so that you can let go of unnecessary fears. You do not need to practice all of these steps or do them in any specific order. Experiment and discover what works best for you. First, take a look around you and notice details in your space. Are there any visual cues that can serve as reminders that you are safe now? Is there any item, such as a plant or piece of artwork that you find pleasant. Notice how it feels to move your head and eyes as you look around your space. Say to yourself soothing words such as, "I am safe now." Next, so that was one of our five senses. That's our sense of sight. And then I accidentally skipped ahead to the second one, which is our sense of sound. And Ariel says, say to yourself soothing words such as, "I am safe now. I am okay." Speak these words out loud in a gentle and loving tone. Notice how it feels to hear your voice speaking with kindness. I am safe now. I am okay. Next, bring one hand over the opposite arm. Notice how it feels to gently and lovingly touch your arm with your hand. Notice the feel of your skin under your palm. Notice the warmth of your palm against your arm. Repeat this practice on the opposite arm. Bring one hand over to the opposite arm. Notice how it feels to gently and lovingly touch your arm with your hand. Notice the feel of your skin under your palm. And notice the warmth of your palm against your arm. Next, take a sip of water or warm tea and move your tongue around the inside of your mouth. Sense the back of your teeth or the roof of your mouth with your tongue. Notice the taste or the temperature. And last, take a few deep breaths while focusing on the rise and fall of your belly. Notice the sensation in your body, or perhaps focus on the feel of air moving across the tip of your nose. There are many additional ways to use your senses to increase your mindfulness of the here and now. For example, you might listen to a soothing piece of music, or you could hold a rock in your hand noticing its texture or temperature. You can get creative with this process. Most importantly, if any sensory experience is upsetting to you, you can switch to another sensory exploration until you experience a feeling of ease in body and mind. Again, next week we have the healing strategy with Dr. Ariel Schwartz. We have self-awareness of avoidance behaviors. How are you all feeling? Just want to check in on you in the chat box. How's it going, John Harvey? How's it going, Craig? How are you feeling, Ninja Taco? Jeffrey Sherman? How are you, Jennifer? How are you, Whitney? Thank you all so much for your compassion and kindness toward one another in the chat box. You all are always so warm and welcoming. Craig says, I'm doing great. Thank you, Athena. I'm so glad to hear that, Craig. So glad you're doing great. And you're very welcome. John Harvey says, still alive and kicking, but a chocolate cake would be nice. You are going to wreck my diet, John Harvey, every time. Every time you talk about chocolate cake, I start craving chocolate cake. So as we wrap up our time together, we have our affirmation by Lisa A. Romano, and it's from her book titled Loving the Self Affirmations. Lisa often writes about codependency, or what Pete Walker calls the fawn trauma response. And for those of us who identify with the fawn trauma response or codependency, that was a major theme and focus last year on Monday nights. We went through a book on healing codependency with Melody Beatty called Language of Letting Go. So the fawn trauma response is when the healing strategy, or the coping strategy that we use, the survival strategy from childhood, is one where rather than run away from the trauma we were experiencing, we actually would people please, and we would engage with the person who was being dysfunctional, neglectful, or abusive. We would help them. We would take care of them. We would do whatever they needed us to do in an effort to experience less pain. And what that does, that fawn trauma response, is birthed and grows into what is referred to as codependency, which is the uncontrollable urge to take care of other people as adults, all to the detriment of our own well-being. So that's what Lisa is referring to in this particular affirmation. And she says, as codependents often grow up believing that their worth is only as strong as their caretakers are able to make them feel. Codependents often search for ways to feel good enough to their caretakers. We get thin, we stay quiet, excel at school or try to be like our caretakers. Today, I release those in my past who never quite understood how deeply I needed to feel seen as a child. Because a healthy sense of self was not mirrored back to me, I never learned to look within for love. Instead, my wounds had me forever looking outside of myself for love. Today, I will practice releasing those who failed to understand how deeply I needed my inner being to feel seen. It is so true. I feel like for me, I definitely didn't have a healthy sense of self reflected back to me. And so I definitely did look outside of myself for love and acceptance and approval. Or as my therapist often talks about, my okayness, my safety and my okayness always resided outside of myself. I only searched for it outside of myself. I never knew that I could feel safe and okay in and of myself. How about you? Ninja Taco said people were being nasty, but this chat and some friends, plus art beforehand, helped. Oh, I'm so sorry, Recovery Buddy. That's not okay. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you stopped by. I'm so glad to see you always. John Harvey says, Ninja Taco, I'm sorry people are being nasty. Sorry to hear that. Ninja Taco says, thanks, John. John Harvey says, I tend to avoid people for that reason. And some gaming to relax and escape bad people. That's so great. What a great coping strategy. You, Ninja Taco, with your art and by being here with all of us. You, John, with your gaming and being here with all of us every week, week after week, month after month, year after year. Yeah, Ninja Taco said gaming rocks. It does. Absolutely. That's so great. John Harvey says, I got a kayak game. It's so relaxing, but it's hard on your arms when paddling. Aw. I'm glad that you have a healthy strategy, though. That's great. Hello to you, Daniel. Glad you stopped by. Daniel says, I study the wisdom of a 13th century Persian poet Rumi. That's great. Welcome. This is a weekly chat. We've all been coming here together for about 9 years, over 9 years now. We check in with one another. Daniel says an excellent movie is Peaceful Warrior. Thank you. Thanks, Daniel. Welcome to our community. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to breathe this week. Like Morgan was talking about in the meditation, breathe free. Breath as a practice, courage as a practice, artwork as a practice, gaming as a practice. Everything is a practice. It's all a practice. Healing as a practice. Next week, on Lisa's affirmation, we are going to talk about control over our emotions. So we're going to talk about emotional regulation. And then with Ariel, we're going to talk about self-awareness of avoidance strategies. And then, of course, we'll have our meditation with Morgan as well. Jennifer says, I am a good singer, so that has been soothing for me. That's so wonderful, Jennifer. I'm so glad. That's great. I miss my choir. I was a second alto in a 100-piece choir before COVID, and then unfortunately we lost our choir director. It's been so nice to spend some time here with you tonight. I hope you'll be extra gentle with yourself, extra kind, extra patient, because you're worth it. And I look forward to seeing you back here next Monday. We also have a group that's not here on social media. It's on a private server. And it's through the Foundation for Post-Traumatic Healing and Complex Trauma Research. And we just connect with one another like we do here, but we do it every day instead of every week. So, you're welcome to join us. There's a link in the description section of this video, or in the pinned comment, or I'll put it in the chat box as well. I'd love to see you. John Harvey, in response to Jennifer singing and to me, John Harvey says, that is great, but sadly for me, I sound like a dying cow in a hailstorm when I try to sing. I find that hard to believe, John Harvey. I don't believe you at all. Jeffrey Sherman says, I want to be a good singer. I need to practice more. I bet you already are a really good singer, Jeffrey Sherman. And I bet you are too, John Harvey. Everything is a practice. Everything. Right? You know what that means. It means it's time for me to go. Aw, thanks, Jeffrey Sherman. Jeffrey Sherman says, hit the like button for peer support. Thank you so much. I always appreciate you so much. So I will see you all next week or over in our community. There's a link in the description section and in the chat box. And again, please be extra kind and extra patient and extra gentle with yourself, because you're worth it. And I'll see you soon. Good night, everyone.